Welcome back everybody, it's DestinysJesus here. In today's video we've got 3 levels of solos, and our top level is of course going to be MrSavage. He won the solo cash cup, 2 wins that we're going to be breaking down and showing loads of advanced tips and tricks and strategies that he's using that you guys can copy. Our semi-pro player, our middle level player here, is going to be someone who's got around 4k earnings. They've actually earned back-to-back weeks so far in the solo cash cups. There's a lot of things you guys can learn, as well as a couple mistakes that they're making that's preventing them from going to that top level. And for our beginner level player, we're taking a player who just got their first earnings, and they actually play on console on a TV screen that's like 55 inches. They play on a really bad setup, and there's quite a lot of mistakes I'm sure you guys are making, as well as quite a lot of nice plays that they're making and doing as well, since of course they've got the Masterclass to help them get their first earnings. So let's go ahead and take a look at some things that Savage is doing off spawn.
Bro, the rocket ram, bro. Fuck the rocket ram for now, okay?
This right here is a very good point by Savage. You do not need to carry the rocket ram during an early and mid game if you can get a kill.
You don't always need to have your late game loadout in the early game. Like if I get in the fight now, I'd rather have more heals than have a fucking rocket ram that if I use it I'm just dead.
This is one of the best techniques you can use in box fighting, especially when you're low HP. Other player exploits into Savage's box. He needs to make space, but he's not got too many mats. So what does he do? First of all, counter damage, gets in his cone above to get his slurp off, so the other player can't really track him. And then here, so many players would make the mistake of trying to hold their wall, where of course the other player is just going to run into SMG or exploit in, or they try to get out the side, which again is the same problem. You can get shot as you do it. The quickest way to get out of this box is what Savage does here. He does it quite a lot. It's just hopping up and getting in your cone and placing a floor below you. It's a really useful technique to learn. Allow Savage to get his heals off. And of course, you can either go ahead and get above and free box and make space to keep on healing up. What he does is use it to get peace on the other player and go for counter damage. Like you can see here, he's able to play the angle really nicely, control the wall, let it while he's got the slurp ticking, and then now gets a little bit of damage on the other player. Nice mantle side jump to the side to catch them off guard.
God, get the fuck out, Tiny.
And takes out the other player. So many players would either try to hold the wall, which is bad to do in case the guy's got 0 ping, or they would go out and the guy can of course get it. And what Savage does instead is just hops into his cone. Now you can go ahead and make space upwards, so you can build a 2x1 upwards, or what you can go ahead and do is drop back down like he does here and then get his slurp off. It is so good to do that. It's definitely worth practicing since it is pretty mechanical and tricky to do. The biggest mistake that beginners make when it comes to these cash cups is their early game plan isn't strong enough. They don't have a drop spot or a drop map, it's someone they want to land at. They don't have a structure about how they're going to play out their early games. It leads to them being shambles and just being forced into a fight. The console player that we're looking at here, Talha, he does the correct thing, however, though, is he realizes, okay, I'm completely shambles. I can't rotate into zone. I definitely can't fight for my cash if somebody contests me for it. So what he does is really smart. He waits for all these other players to rotate past him, as you can see, and then he's going to run back into Storm and spend ages in Storm, popping whites and going ahead and getting as stacked as possible. This is one of the best strats I think you guys can do this season. It's something you can do pretty much every single game of finals because there's no surge, and you do not need to worry about storm sickness until much later on in the game when you're getting into sort of partial zones if you're tanking Storm a lot. So you can see here, just from this little island, he's able to go ahead and get super stacked. Then he's going to go ahead and rotate into Slappy, so he goes back into a POI where he knows there's going to be a lot of loot, as well as you can go ahead and do the strat and get cash boxes. So you can see here, he's able to find a big pot. He's going to carry the C4 for a refresh for later on, and he actually gets fairly stacked as he comes out of Storm here. He finds 3 bigs extra as he runs around looting up from people getting their caches earlier on in the game, and then now he's going to get out of Storm on 4th zone closing in like this as 5th zone shows up, and he's able to rotate in for free from edge of zone, as you can see here, and then now he's in a very good position to go ahead and do well this game. Of course, Savage is trying to go for the forecast tower, and he went for it in both of the wins that he got. You guys need to be good at fighting to go for it, but another thing you can do whenever you're going for your forecast tower, even if you don't go for it, is to intentionally be far in Storm as your cache goes ahead and spawns on 3rd zone. This means that you get a cache that's far away from you, but it's also far away from the other player that it gets linked to. They have to run through most likely congested side or a whole lot of other players boxed up, and you can go ahead and just rotate to your cache for free, farm up your mats on the way, and go ahead and get super stacked. It does mean you normally get a blue cache, but that's completely fine because you're going to be cap mats. As we come to partial zones, one thing that Savage does that not a lot of players do is controlling the edge of Storm that he's playing from. So many players in the situation will just go ahead and run down or try to get deeper in the zone or just box up. What Savage does is very smart. he goes ahead and controls the edge of storm. So he's going to box up just here, and he's going to use his mythic MK, block off his line of sight, and force other players to go around him and give him sort of a dead side by himself. That's going to allow him a free rotate for next zone. This means that no matter where the zone pulls on the next zone, as you can see here, Savage has a free rotate because there's nobody with about 30 meters either side of him. He can run for free, and he also very smartly here uses the bush bomb to go ahead and stagger his rotate. He catches a nice timing, gets a free kill on those players fighting that he forced away from him, and now is able to rotate over and get this rotate in completely for free without using a rocket. Beginner level players always make these 3 mistakes as they rotate to zone. First things first is they're not early rotating. Instead, they're just spending too long getting information rather than just running to zone. Secondly is as he leaves his box, he's not checking behind him, which is the key thing you have to worry about. It's people beaming you front and back. And then right here, he ends up getting shot in the back. The guy somehow misses all of his shots. However, he should just block this off with some high walls and keep on running and use the walls as line of sight. Instead, he pauses for a long period of time, doesn't keep track of where the other player's gone, and then now he's wasted time on his rotate, and he ends up rotating forward without getting information again. You always need to get information before you rotate, especially whenever you pause, because right here, he runs straight into somebody still in their box. He doesn't have any information on this guy, gets pumped, and almost gets sprayed. However, at this point, he swaps it around, and he does the correct thing, which is make space backwards away from the other player, and now he's able to get a big off, and he doesn't wait here for this guy to grief his game. Instead, he just burns through a little bit of mats to get away from him. As you can see, burns through some wood to get away from him, and then continues rotating the zone. But those 3 small mistakes that he made in terms of not going early, not going ahead and blocking his back and keep on moving, as well as not keeping a track of what's in front of him, has now led to him being in the storm on partial zone. So it's about to start being a 5-tick. It's a 2-tick right now. He needs to get out, and he has to do the risky play, which is padding into zone. Savage also uses control on the dead side as he rotates into the 8 zone. The reason he does this is as he says here.
This guy's gonna go around here.
He does it to look for kills. So what he does here, waits for this player to stop refarming. Gets that 70 tag, and as soon as you get a damage advantage, people are going to try to pop that slurp at this point in the game. So he just breaks into the wall as the other player isn't paying attention and goes ahead and takes them out. Now he's gone ahead and upgraded to a rocket, but it's really key here. If you're using the dead side, you do not rocket so you don't show up on visual audio. Instead, try to foot rotate into zone. Now here, instead of just forcing his way in, Savage is going to go ahead and look back and control the backside of zone. And what does he do? He's got scope salvo, he spots a player going ahead and rocketing, doing a really poor rocket straight up in the air. And he goes ahead and goes straight for the loot. This is why I think you should carry the twin mag AR, especially if you need a refresh during the earlier part of the game, like need to get more loot, like he does there.
What the fuck? What are you doing?
Now you can see Savage is absolutely stacked up. He's missed a gold pump, but it's completely fine. He's got exotic splashes, 2 slurps, and he's going to go ahead and use a low rocket ramp to get towards where the next zone is pulling and to get into the dead side of moving again. This whole sequence by Savage is really good, and there's a lot of things you guys can go ahead and learn. First of all is he tanks Storm and wastes the slurp to go ahead and get this rocket. The rocket is so important for frame games, you basically can't rotate or play without it. So he tanks Storm, uses some splashes, and as he rockets into zone here, take a look at how good he is at maintaining his momentum to get into zone quick. First of all, he slides, then he goes ahead and ramps up, blocks his back and his front, reverse ramps to keep his movement speed up, slides forward again. Now he's sprinting, side jumping, getting in, and he finally gets cut off and he has to slow down. At this point in time, a lot of players would panic. They'd go ahead and start fighting this other player who's in full metal for some reason. And what Savage does is really smart instead, is he realizes he's still got about 25 seconds to look for a kill safely on backside. So how should you do that? Always hold and edit and try to catch somebody off guard as they run past it. At this point in time, so many players have to rotate. It's exactly what Savage plays for. 100 tag, gets the full box, gets the kill, and immediately makes space, secures the walls, and gets out. After that, he goes ahead and juggles with the extra looting, throws the extra slurping that he's got, and now he's perfectly set up to win this game. One big mistake that people make is an over-reliance on going ahead and using their mobility for every single rotate and not using Deadside or just building rotates if they can. As you can see here, there's of course a very congested side of zone that is going to be the active side or the congested side, and then Blizzard here has intentionally got himself towards the dead side of zone by his rotates earlier. And then our semi-pro player, his first move starts, instead of rocketing, which is what all 20 other players are going to go ahead and do on this rotate, instead he just runs zone. The reason why this is so good is because of course you don't get the risk of getting beamed by people out the air, and it also means you've got less chance of getting slammed. Unfortunately here, he goes too far front side, gets slammed into by a player, but he's able to use this opportunity to pop a slurp and then look for a kill. And of course, what is going to happen? All of these players are going to go ahead and land very front side of zone. They're all going to slam into each other and they're going to be low HP. And you're able to go ahead very simply and just get a kill from your backside position on them as they're getting slammed into and they're low HP. Now, Blizzard goes ahead, does the correct thing, which is double walling this guy off, builds and makes sure all the mats are airtight, gets out, and now he's able to continue rotating on foot here very cheaply and effectively. Right here, our console player playing on a 55-inch TV does something that Savage doesn't do, because of course he has the Masterclass. He goes ahead and places these 2 wood builds above his head when he's front side of zone. You guys should always do these 2 wood builds, just prevent somebody from slamming into and you get that knockback effect and the 50 damage. If they do slam into you, you've got an easy refresh opportunity that you can go ahead and get. It's so good to do this and you should always do it when you pull zone. Now as we get into second moving here, this is what our semi-pro player makes a few mistakes. First of all is he goes ahead and breaks his cone to place another one, which is a small mistake, it's just some extra material wasted, as well as he edits his floor to set up the cone phase trick. Might not seem like the biggest thing, those 2 small things, but you should learn where to set up properly, because right now, if this guy wanted to, he could just spray into his box while Blizzard's activate his rocket and get a free kill. He gets away with it here though, and he only wastes 1 material, and the rest of this moving zone is played perfectly. Take a look what he does. First of all, he doesn't land front side where everybody else is landing and gets slammed into. Instead, he lands back on the edge of Storm, so he's playing the left-hand side here, and lands in Storm, so he's got no risk of getting slammed into. He pauses for a second and immediately realizes I need to get up this hill. Doesn't want to play low here, so he burns wood to get up the hill. Once he gets to front side, what does he do? He builds a single box right here with another box behind it, and he uses this box right here to look for a kill. So he goes back, now he's got a 2x1, and really crucial thing here is this 2x1 is set up on a position on zone where he can look for a kill, right? All these players have to come up this hill, and what does he do? Looks with his edit control, gets a max damage on this player below him, gets the refresh, and now he's able to continue on rotating, gets into the ender zone very effectively here. One of the best mobility item combos you can use this season is taking crash pads, especially as you get into moving zones. If you can kill somebody or get somebody with them with the redeploy perk. This means whenever you're invincible to full damage, you can redeploy your glider. Take a look at how Savage uses this here. He throws it down, then redeploys, then gets to front side, then drops down to a good layer where he's not going to get slammed into the rocket. The thing is, the rocket, it's got that massive cooldown on it. It limits how you can play a lot, and you have to have whites to use it effectively. Whereas Savage can go ahead and use these crash pads as well as glider redeploy to get to any position he wants really effectively. He also combines them with sprint rotate, so he sprints into the ender zone, builds a 2x1, and then now he's in a perfect position to look for refreshes to try to close out this game. Now, as you get into our end game, our console player playing on a TV goes ahead and does a really good play. First of all is he wood rotates into the ender zone, swaps into metal, and now he's on a good layer to look for a refresh, but he doesn't need to force it just yet. Instead, he's going to wait for zone to swap. And what should you do in a situation like this when you don't need to necessarily force a refresh just yet? Look for a potential refresh opportunity on somebody else who's getting a refresh themselves, and that's exactly what he does here. He spots somebody jumping into a box. This guy clearly needs a refresh. This guy's clearly stacked since he's just popping a slurp. So what does he go ahead and do? Waits for the guy to get the kill, or as the guy was about to start fighting, jumps in, and then now he's in a 1v1 with somebody who's low HP and is getting looked at by other players. The other guy dies to another player. Tower plays this really patiently and slow. He goes ahead and pops that big pot right there, swaps the Mythic MK, gets majority of the mats, so he gets 400 melt for a night, did actually miss the brick, and then he makes the best play happen. And this is a play that I recommend doing to all of you guys as you get an endgame this season, is blindsiding height with your rocket ramp. Height right here might look pretty hard, might look pretty intimidating. This guy's skybasing sort of on the hill. However, he does not have visibility on what is back behind him in Storm. And what is that? A console player flying straight at him. It's going to go ahead and knock him out for height. The guy dies to full damage, didn't have a rocket ram charge ready, didn't expect to get bumped off height. And what does he do? Instead of just landing back on backside, he said he lands on the player on second height on front side. So he does damage to this guy to make him scared of going for height. Also griefs his mats a little bit. And then there's some amazing 90s to get up, as you can see here. And now he is up on high ground and he's about to win this game. The semi-pro player here plays this final moving really well. First of all, is he gets back into these old builds, so he doesn't have to go through wood that's going to get looked at and box fought by other players. Now here, as final moving plays, he doesn't commit to tarping forward. He waits to see where zone is pulling. You can see it's pulling south into this other player. Instead of tarping towards this player and having to fight him while getting looked up at height, instead he plays his slurp back in Storm, as you can see. Runs back into Storm, plays a slurp, and he wanted to play for these mats here. However, he realizes it's not worth it at this point. It's another player going for it. So what does he do in this situation? A lot of players would do a rocket straight up, which ends up then getting beamed by Height. As you can see, Height is playing it properly. They're going around the edge of Storm. They're not in the middle where they would have line of sight blocked. So you can see he goes straight forward horizontally with his rocket. Does 50 damage to this player right here, gets into front side while he's got his slurp ticking, and then cuts back into Storm and is able to get himself back up to 200 HP. Now at this point, this is such a good play. He knows there's a player up on Height who is in a really good position to win this game, and he knows the player down on low ground just got the refresh, and they're probably stacked, and they've probably got heal off potential as well. So what does he do in this situation? He just takes the fight to the other player while they're back in the Storm and while they're just done fighting, assuming they're low HP. This is also a very safe play because he's got the slurp ticking. So what does he do? Gets straight in with the breacher, goes ahead and takes them out, gets all the mats, and then just looks for the fight on Height. At this point in time, when a 1v1, it's basically impossible to play heal off unless it's really late into the game, so he doesn't even worry about that. He shoots out the other player and then takes the fight right to them, and then wants to aggro them before they can go ahead and get a slurp off. He does a cone here as he breaks the wall. Then he goes ahead and gets another cone and a cone above him to stop the guy going up. Floor replace, and really smartly here, he knows the other player is not going to aggro or try to come out towards him. He knows he's going to drop down. So what does he do? Swings round to the right peak and hits the max as the guy's falling and wins the game. Really well played game by the semi-pro player to go ahead and earn back-to-back weeks in the solo cash cup. Now let's go ahead and take a look at how Savage closes out this game, and this is probably one of those well-played endgames I've seen anybody from this season, and I've seen a lot of endgames. First of all is he continues tarping forward, and he realizes that edits in front of him aren't safe. He could of course replace them with the breacher, but instead he goes ahead and tanks, goes around to the side of Storm, cuts off this other player, and then now he builds a 2x1 on the front side and pops a slurp. At this point in time, he needs a refresh, of course, to win the game, but he doesn't force the issue. He's going to go ahead and play his slurp to find the refresh from back in Storm. This right here has got to be one of the best plays I've seen. Places a backward stare to catch the opponent. Now he goes ahead and does a smart edit. Opponent, of course, is thinking Savage is going to be inside the box. He's not ready for where Savage has moved to. Hits the 100, perfect right and peak to get the kill and get the extra slurp off the other player. However, he doesn't commit to popping the slurp. Instead, he plays the slurp he's got on at the moment, tanks Storm, makes sure the loot is safe and the other players left, and then now look what he does. He plays a med kit knowing he's just got enough time to pop it. If you guys didn't know, when you've got a slurp on, you gain 6 white HP per second, and of course you're taking 10 per Storm tick. So he basically perfectly plays this with this amount of HP. I wouldn't recommend cutting it this close just in case you mess up the timing. If you're trying to pop a med kit, make sure you're at least above 50 HP when you're popping a slurp, but Savage knows how good it is when you can get this off. So here you can see he just barely manages to get this off as he's on his last tick to Storm. Gets down to 6 HP, gets the medkit off, and then now take a look what he does. Crash pads up, doesn't insta redeploy, instead griefs Height. He's forced these other 2 players to fight. Does not of course want to be involved in that fight. So what does he do? Drops down to low ground, cuts off low, and then now you can see he spots the whites. So literally 99.9% of players run back in Storm for the whites here, but Savage doesn't. Instead, he keeps on playing this final 9 seconds. He stays in Storm as long as possible, blocks off all of the angles, make sure he's not getting jumped in on. Now he runs back in Storm, grabs the whites, instantly throws them, and that difference there, the extra few ticks he avoid taking by tanking Storm for the whites, as well as how long he stayed, is going to allow him to win this game. And this is crazy. Other guy just goes down and he wins the game.
There's no way I just won that. There is no way I just won that.
If you guys want to go ahead and improve and place just like the beginner player did to get his first earnings, as well as Blizzard, our semi-pro player, go and check out the Solos Masterclass 5.0. Blizzard's been using it for a while. He actually managed to qualify grands last year with it, which is crazy. He's also been earning consistently in these solos, as you can see here, basically earning most of the week so far. And there's over 20 new videos for season 4 that you can go ahead and learn from. It's by far the best investment in yourself. If you want to get better at solos and you want to improve your overall Fortnite skill, go check it out now. Alright, that's the end of the video. Appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you like if you enjoyed.